Call Phil Twyford.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Very happy to take a call in the Appropriation Supplementary Estimates Bill debate. And, good to follow Chester Burrows, one of the more moderate and open-minded members of the National Caucus, and often makes an interesting contribution to these debates. But, sir, I would like to respond to some of the comments made a little earlier this afternoon by the Honourable Tau Henare. And because he said, well, it's a little bit hard to know exactly what he said, but I feel it deserves a response. He's my neighbour in Te Atatu Peninsula, and I feel the need to set the record straight, because he painted a picture, sir, that wasn't entirely conversant with the facts of what happened on Sunday afternoon, sir, as the rain pelted down in Te Atatu Peninsula. And I was there delivering, in my raincoat, I was there delivering leaflets for Kelvin Davis's by-election campaign for Te Tai Tokerau. Kelvin Davis, a candidate who's clearly got the momentum now. The Prime Minister thinks he's going to win. Even Mrs Turia thinks that Kelvin Davis is going to win, I see in the news, and his support is growing by the hour. So there I was delivering Kelvin's leaflets in Tawa Road in Te Atatu Peninsula, and who should emerge from out of his house but the Honourable Tau Henare, wearing his pyjamas at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, sir. This is the hard-working member, National Party list member, based in Te Atatu. I think he'd just been watching the league on television, still wearing his pyjamas. But there we are. That's life in Te Atatu for you. What he did say, sir, that deserves a serious response, is that the member Tau Henare talked about the rates that are being levied on West Auckland businesses. And said this is very unfair. He said in the House a few days ago that it's a constitutional outrage that West Auckland businesses are paying 40% more, sir, than businesses in other parts of Auckland. And he laid the blame at the door of Labour and of the Auckland Mayor, Len Brown. Well, sir, this is a prime example of the kind of convoluted, confused and woolly thinking that we've come to expect from the national benches, sir. This member, Tau Henare, he voted for the national government's legislation that established the Super City last year that explicitly prohibited the Auckland Council from bringing in a unified rates regime, which could have been in place for this financial year we're just about to enter, that would have tackled the rates differential and would have put a level playing field in place so that West Auckland businesses would not be paying more than their fair share. West Auckland businesses should not be paying more than businesses in other parts of the Super City, but because of the silly law that Tau Henare and the national members voted for, they are forced to pay more, and it was put in place so that Aucklanders wouldn't face a rates increase on the eve of the general election. Well, sir, Tau Henare doesn't seem to have comprehended that, and he's on the rampage. He's out there now, campaigning up and down West Auckland against this terribly unfair rates rise. But that's not the only example of confused thinking. If there's one issue, sir, that is on the minds of the nation right now that illustrates, as my colleague Marion Street put it earlier in this debate, the poverty of thinking of this national government, it is asset sales.
That's right.
And as we get closer to the election, we're starting to see the elements of the national government's, National Party's agenda are beginning to emerge. What do we see, sir? A punitive approach to welfare reform that seeks to drive mothers with young children back to work at a time of record unemployment. What else do we see? Pretty clear signals in the last few days by the Prime Minister of a further undermining of the rights of workers in this country to bargain collectively for a fair share of the wealth that they produce. It's not enough. It's not enough to sell our labour laws to a Hollywood corporation when it comes asking for law changes. It's not enough to impose on New Zealand workers a situation where they can be fired at will in the first 90 days of their employment. No, there's more to come. And it may be youth rates, who knows what else, but there's something, and the Prime Minister tells us that the unions are not going to like it. What else have we got? Cutting KiwiSaver, cutting research and development, cutting working for families. They deny it on that side of the house, sir, but up to $50 a week taken out of the household budgets of a two-parent family with 4 children earning up to $80,000 a week. $50 a week taken out of their household budgets. Now, we can have a proper debate about government spending. We can have a debate about what the right priorities are for our nation. That's a perfectly legitimate thing to do. But these cuts, they're not a plan. They don't offer any kind of rational strategy. They don't give people any hope that this government has a plan to grow the economy, to get the New Zealand economy moving again, and to build our prosperity. What else have we seen? Tax cuts weighted to the top bracket of income earners. It's just another example of trickle-down economics. $2.5 billion the country is borrowing this year to fund the share of John Key's tax cuts that went to the top 10% of earners. $2.5 billion put on the tab for future generations of New Zealanders to pay so that John Key could deliver to the National Party base his promised tax cuts. Sir, this is the tired old hack thinking that we've come to expect from the National Party. The government has nothing to say about growth. It's got nothing to say about building this country. Where is the thinking? Where are the ideas about innovation? How are we as a country going to grow a dozen more Lanzatechs? How are we going to make sure that the brilliant ideas coming out of our universities are captured and developed by New Zealand firms so that New Zealand shareholders get the long-term benefits? What is this government doing, having gone to all the trouble to amalgamate 8 councils into one in Auckland, to ensure that our nation's largest city becomes a hub of high-value, high-tech export firms generating value for our economy? We've seen nothing, no ideas, no policy, no strategy in that area. How should we be addressing the skills deficit and put the 70,000 unemployed young people to work and into training to make sure that it's they who have the skills and the qualifications to drive our firms forward, and so that they can have secure, high-value, well-paid jobs for the future. So the government's plan to import Irish builders and tradespeople to rebuild Christchurch, and the government's intention to import skilled labour from overseas to do the fibre rollout for ultra-fast broadband. So these 2 examples, they are an utter indictment of this government's failure to plan properly and to invest in our own people. Instead of whittering on for the last 2 years about cycleways and taking the sharper edges off the recession, they should have increased skills training rather than cutting it. They should have taken the caps off Polytech funding and encouraged Polytechs to open their doors and bring more students in, because it's better to have our young people in training rather than sitting at home on a dole. New Zealanders know this. I hear this every week on the doorstep in Te Atatu, but for some reason this government has no idea about what the practical steps they could take actually to get this economy moving. The problem lies not only in what the government is not going to do. It's not going to invest in skills training. It's not going to increase R&D. It's not going to seriously address the savings crisis. But, sir, the big problem lies in what they are going to do. And their big idea is to sell off our most valuable and our best performing state assets, the energy companies and Air New Zealand. It's sad, but it's true, that this is the kind of thinking that's emanating out of the National Party's brains trust. And you can imagine Stephen Joyce and Jerry Brownlee sitting around the table with the boys from Crosby Textor, trying to think up how they are going to sell one of the most unpopular policies the New Zealand public has ever had foisted upon it. How are they going to sell that to the voting public? How about mixed ownership? How about partial sell-downs? So this is the best they can do. They want to sell a family silver. That's the only plan they've got, and New Zealanders have seen it coming a mile away.
Mr. Speaker.
called Tim Mac